I married the third prince in place of my elder sister. From the prince's residence to the depths of the palace, we maintained a respectful relationship as sovereign and subject, and lived in harmony as husband and wife. Yet everyone praised only Shen Yumeng. No one knew that I was actually Shen Yunshu. If there is a next life, I do not wish to be anyone's stand-in again. When I opened my eyes again, I had somehow returned to the time before my marriage. I hurried to find my elder sister, but as soon as I reached the veranda, I saw, deep within, the shadows of the flowers, my cousin Kuanwen holding my elder sister tightly in his arms. But my elder sister is soon to be betrothed, and her fiancéis none other than the third prince, Xiao Bo'an. In my previous life, after my elder sister died in an accident, I was forced to take her place. In marriage, could it be that the accident was no accident at all? Main text. I quietly returned to my room, my heart pounding in my chest. 3 months ago, my mother passed away, and I set out for the capital. My cousin Kuanwen was preparing for the imperial examinations, so he accompanied me all the way. My father admired his talent and scholarship, so he kept him at our estate to study for the exams. But I had never realized that between him and my elder sister things had come to this. At the flower viewing banquet the day after tomorrow, my stepmother will take my elder sister to the palace, and the imperial decree granting the marriage will surely arrive soon. My thoughts are in turmoil. I don't know what to do. My father is a man of many passions. My mother was merely a fleeting romance amidst the misty rains of Jiangnan. I grew up in Jiangnan. Since returning to the estate, I have seen my elder sister only a handful of times. To ask her now how she feels would be too abrupt. Should I ask cousin Kuanwen? He likely wouldn't admit it either. In my previous life, after father told me about the arranged marriage, I once mustered the courage to ask him, would cousin Kuanwen be willing to marry me? How did he answer back then? He said, cousin Yunshu, I have yet to achieve distinction. I dare not aspire to such a match. So it wasn't that he dared not. It was that I was unworthy. In truth, my elder sister and I bear a striking resemblance. With a little dressing up, we are almost identical. Otherwise, in my past life, my father would not have had me take her place in marriage. After all, I did not marry under the name Shen Yunshu, but under the name Shen Yumeng. My elder sister held a noble status. After I took her place, I became the third prince's principal consort and enjoyed every luxury. Yet I always felt that luxury was stolen. I walked on eggshells, constantly on edge. So in this life, I really didn't want to take her place. I tossed and turned all night, my worries weighing on my dreams, and slept very restlessly. Fortunately, my stepmother left early the next morning, sparing me the need to pay my respects. I slept until the sun was high in the sky before finally sitting up, still wrapped in my quilt. The sky outside was bright, yet I felt somewhat lost. In this life, whom should I marry? He must be of a suitable age, of decent appearance, and his family background well. It can't be too shabby either. After all, I am no longer the timid, orphaned girl from the south who first arrived in the capital in my previous life. I've seen the phoenix crown and bridal robes, tasted delicatessen from land, and see how difficult it is to go from luxury to frugality. Last night, sleeping on this hard bed with only Xiao attending to my ablutions, I even found myself a bit out of sorts. Just as I was lost in thought, Xiao Tao entered, holding a letter in her hands. Second young lady, the gatekeeper just delivered this, saying it's for you. A letter. In this capital city, Could there really be someone who would write me a letter? How strange. I took the plain white envelope. And as my gaze fell upon the 5 characters written on it, my breath caught in my throat. To Shen Yunshu. Personally, the handwriting was slender, sharp and fierce, the brushstrokes like blades. I had seen it countless times in my previous life. Imperial annotations on memorials. The emperor's own hand all bore the same script. It was the current third prince, Xiao Bo'an, second young lady. Xiao Tao gasped. Only then did I realize my hands were trembling violently. And the envelope drifted to the floor. I am fine, you may go out for now. And bring me a firelighter. Yes. Once the door closed, I bent down to pick up the letter. Inside was only a single sheet of thin paper, bearing 4 simple words. Come to Baishan Lake. Baishan Lake, originally named Boshan Lake. It was renamed after he ascended the throne. Could it be? Has he returned as well? Is it because we were buried in the same grave after our deaths? Xiao Tao brought the tinder box, and I immediately set the paper alight. Watching it curl up into ashes, I hurriedly put on my veil and slipped quietly out the back door. My mind was in turmoil the entire way. Having been his rival for decades in my previous life, I knew full well how ruthless he was, one who never forgave a slight, even though he had once been my husband. He was first and foremost the Son of Heaven, and a deep reverence for him was already ingrained in my very bones. That he was seek in, G me out now meant he must have learned of my rebirth. After all, at this time in my previous life, he had never paid me any mind. Upon reaching the shores of White Mountain Lake, Xiao Bo'an's personal bodyguard, Chang Mao, approached and said, "Second young lady, His Highness is waiting for you." Following Chang Mao up to the 2nd floor of the tea house, the door to the private room was pushed open. Xiao Bo'an sat by the window, a cup of clear tea in his hand, steam rising gently. "Greetings, Third Prince." I immediately bowed my head in respect. He gave only a single response. Yet I knew that tone all too well. Beneath the calm surface lay suppressed displeasure. Does he think I'm late? But I practically ran all the way here. Come here. I walked over to the seat opposite him and sat upright. Look outside. I gazed out the window. The waters of Boshan Lake shimmered, and the willows along the shore looked like wisps of smoke. Under the shade of the willows, a young woman, in a pale yellow spring robe, and a scholar in a blue robe were embracing. Who else could it be but my elder sister and Kuanwen? What's the matter? Didn't you recognize them? Xiao Bo'an's voice betrayed no emotion. I knelt with a thud. This servant has erred. What error is there? He had written my real name on the envelope and then made me witness the scene. He must surely know about the arranged marriage. I should not have entered the palace under the name of Shen Yumeng. Nor should I have deceived your highness, I answered bluntly. Head bowed. He hated lies above all else. I knew this better than anyone. Rise. Yes, thank you, your highness. As I stood, a thin sheen of sweat had already formed on the back of my robe. Even though he was merely a prince now, crushing me to death would be as easy as turning his hand. I couldn't help but wonder, was my sister's death in my previous life also connected to him? Young. Here, I answered instantly. He had always called me that in my past life. Thinking about it now, he had indeed never once called me Shen Yumeng back then. So had he known all along in my past life. Another wave of cold sweat broke out. Now that you've been reborn, do you have any thoughts? I wish to serve at your highness's side, I answered with practiced ease. He had asked me this many times in my past life. My answer had never changed, because I knew he liked to hear it. Very well, then I shall grant your wish. My legs gave way, and I knelt once more. What did those words mean? There is no need to thank me. With that, he set down his teacup. Roseanne left. I remained prostrate on the ground for a long time. Only after my heartbeat had calmed somewhat did I pick up my veil and head downstairs. But as soon as I reached the bottom of the stairs, I unexpectedly ran in to Kuanwen. Cousin, what are you doing here? He looked surprised. I didn't want to acknowledge him. I used to think of him as a proper scholar. But looking at him now, he was clearly a hypocrite, scheming step by step to climb the social ladder and curry favor with the powerful, from my elder sister to the princess later on. The women in his eyes were nothing more than stepping stones for his own advancement. Just as I was about to walk around him, he reached out to block my path. Fortunately, Chang Mao stepped in between us. Second young lady, His Highness has ordered that I escort you back to the manor. Thank you, IG. Ave. A slight nod. My legs were indeed feeling unsteady at that moment. The carriage rode smoothly and swiftly, just as I was considering whether to buy a box of pastries along the way as a pretext. Chang Mao's voice came from outside. Second young lady, we've arrived. He escorted me straight to the main gate, and I stepped down to thank him. The moment I entered the gate, a figure darted out from behind the screen wall. It was my elder sister, Shen Yumeng. Yunshu, where did you go just now? Two went. Unfortunately, I didn't get to finish my sentence. Smack. I clutched my cheek and stared at my elder sister in disbelief. Had she lost her mind? How dare she lay a hand on me? In my previous life, during my decades in the palace, no one had ever dared to slap me like that, but I held back from striking back. Merely gazing at her, staring at me. Shen Yunshu, you're just a daughter of a concubinito. You really think the third prince will back you up? Sister, why don't we go before father and explain everything clearly? Who did each of us meet by Boshan Lake today? And what exactly did we do? How dare you? You dare to threaten me? Cousin Kuanwen, I suddenly called out behind her. She instinctively turned around, and I immediately took off running. I had only heard rumors of her spoiled nature before, but today I witnessed her true brutality and madness firsthand. I had intended to warn her to rein in her behavior, but now it seemed she wouldn't listen even if I did. Suddenly, I thought of Xiao Bo'an. In my previous life, he once told me, even when beating a dog, one must consider its master. To wrong me is to wrong him. After I married him, I truly never suffered the slightest injustice. I had expected my elder sister to come back and cause a scene, but after waiting for a long time, she didn't show up. Instead, my stepmother sent 2 new sets of clothes. Xiao Dao reported a guy. Second young lady, Master Chen's servant has arrived. He says the young master is waiting for you in the garden to discuss an important matter. Tell him I've retired for the day and won't see him. Why should I see him? He's been entangled with my elder sister behind my back. Does he even deserve to speak of important matters? Fuming inside, I ate 2 extra bowls of rice at supper, my thoughts drifting back to the events of the day. He knew from my previous life that I was a substitute bride, yet he never exposed me. I suppose that means he's still somewhat satisfied with me, though I've never borne a son. I've managed the harem with impeccable order. Don't the meticulous historical records also praise the Empress for her gentleness and virtue? Now that he says he'll grant my wish, he must have a thorough plan in place. Then I have nothing to fear. I may fear him, but after decades of marriage, trust has long been ingrained in my very bones. Actually, marrying him in this life is acceptable. I've come to know Xiao Bo'an's nature well. His mind is on the intrigues of the court and the welfare of the empire, never on romantic entanglements. Of course, it was only later that I fully grasped this truth. in my previous life. Shortly after marrying him, I was secretly poisoned with red flower. The physician said I would be unable to bear children for the rest of my life. I was terrified. After much deliberation, I selected 5 beautiful concubines, yet he kept not a single one. He sent them all to the estate outside the city and coldly rebuked me for acting on my own initiative. Later, when he ascended the throne, I handled all matters related to the imperial selection. The sisters in the harem were all chosen by me to enter the palace. Naturally, they were all those who pleased my eye and had good dispositions. I actually find myself missing those carefree days in the palace, playing leaf cards and sampling new teas with the noble consort Shu and noble consort Wei. The more I think about it, the more I realize that marrying him wasn't such a bad thing after all. Isn't this just like opening a textbook to take an exam? All those past memories remain in my heart. The next morning, I went to pay my respects to my stepmother as usual, wearing the new clothes she had given me yesterday. My elder sister stood nearby, her gaze piercing me with coldness. Father was there as well. He looked me over for a moment, before speaking slowly. Yunshu, when did you first meet the third prince? I replied meekly. Father, yesterday I went to the pastry shop by Boss Han Lake, where I happened to encounter the third prince's carriage. His Highness seemed to have mistaken me for my elder sister. I looked up at my elder sister. Her face instantly paled, and she clenched her handkerchief tightly. His Highness asked me a few more questions, and upon realizing he had mistaken me for someone else, he had me escorted back to the manor. A flicker of panic crossed my elder sister's eyes. Since she didn't come to pick a GHT last night, I suspected that her affair with my cousin was likely far deeper than what I had witnessed by the lake. She felt guilty, which is why she dared not make a move. You are to attend today's flower viewing banquet as well. Father paused for a moment, then made his decision. My ELD. Her sister hurriedly objected. Father, it has always been the eldest daughters of each family who attend the palace banquets. This might not be in accordance with protocol. Father raised his hand to cut her off. Etiquette is rigid. It won't hurt for Yunshu to see the world. I understood perfectly. With the emperor's health failing and the succession still uncertain, Father's mind had long since begun to scheme. He wanted to place his bet, to tie his family's ship to the most likely candidate before the storm broke. 3 years ago, he had already married our youngest aunt to the crown prince as a secondary consort, and that was the crown prince, the legitimate son of the empress. Who could have known that last year the crown prince would be exposed for the horrifying crime of using virgin oils to refine elixirs? He angered the emperor and was sent away to his fiefdom prematurely, with no hope of ever ascending the throne. The second prince's birth mother was a princess from a foreign tribe sent to the empire through a marriage alliance. He himself was devoted to nature and spent most of his time traveling, showing no interest in the imperial throne. Although the fourth prince was raised under the empress's care, his birth mother was merely a palace maid, so he never truly won the empress's affection. The empress even believed he was the one who had brought ruin upon the crown prince. Given these circumstances, the third prince, Xiao Bo'an, suitable age, decent lineage, and currently unblemished, naturally became the hope my father deemed most worthy of his bet. But in this life, I have no intention of marrying into the family under the name Shen Yumeng again. As if that nobility were stolen. Now that I have been reborn, I intend to stand by his side with dignity. Under the name Shen Yunshu, I imagine Xiao Bo'an agrees as well. Otherwise, why would he have Chang Mao escort me to the main entrance? I know my father all too well now. As long as the third prince shows the slightest interest in me, he will not hesitate to register me under my stepmother's name. After all, which daughter is married off is of no importance to him. In his eyes, there is only the future of the Shen family. His daughters are merely the most convenient pawns in his quest to climb the social ladder, no matter how unwilling my elder sister might be. Once father had spoken, she could do nothing about it. All along the way, my elder sister glared at me with hatred, but I pretended not to notice. The palace gates stood majestic, the imperial gardens deep and secluded. Today's flower viewing banquet had drawn nearly every noble young lady from the capital. After all, on such occasions, these young women were the most radiant blossoms. The second prince had only one concubine, while the third and fourth princes had reached the age for arranged marriages. My elder sister moved among them with ease. As if in her element, I followed close behind my stepmother. Today, I ask for nothing more than for people to see that the second young lady of the Shen family is also here. That is enough. As for an arranged marriage, I trust that Xiao Bo'an has his own plans. Sure enough, as the banquet reached its peak, Her Majesty the Xianfei had a palace maid summon me forward. Are you the second young lady of the Shen family? This humble maiden is Shen Yunshu. I pay my respects to Her Majesty the Xianfei. The noble consort studied me for a moment, then smiled faintly. Indeed, a daughter raised in the water towns of Jiangnan, gentle in appearance, sharp in the eyes. Your Highness overpraises me. The noble consort came from a military family. She and the emperor had been childhood sweethearts. Yet after entering the palace, a constant sorrow had settled in her brow. In my previous life, she treated me exceptionally well. Once holding my hand, she sighed and said, "Do not seek true affection from the men of the imperial family. It is the most unattainable thing of all." I have remembered those words my entire life. That is why, in my previous life, I only wished to be a flawless empress, neither vying for favor nor demanding love. In this life, I have also made up my mind. Not only will I manage the harem with diligence, but if given the chance, I will also do practical things for the common people. This humble daughter offers her respects to Her Majesty the noble consort. My elder sister suddenly walked over from the side, interrupting with a radiant smile. The noble consort looked at me, then at her, her smile deepening. The two sisters really do look alike. Before my elder sister could reply, my stepmother approached with a smile. Your Highness has keen eyes. They were actually twins. But Yunshu has been frail since childhood and cannot endure the cold of the capital. So she was raised at our ancestral home in Jiangnan. As the noble consort and my stepmother began to converse, my elder sister stood by, digging her fingertips fiercely into the palm of her hand. I knew it, though the stepmother appeared to dote on my elder sister. In the face of the Shen family's future, my sister was of no consequence. In my previous life, after she passed away from illness, I took her place as the bride. From then on, the stepmother recognized only me as her daughter and never spoke a harsh word to me again. Later, when my younger brother Shenqing got married and I returned to the mansion for the ceremony, she even clutched my hand, repeatedly calling me her good daughter. I silently stepped aside. My elder sister immediately moved closer and whispered, "What exactly are you trying to do?" I didn't answer. "Do you think you can get past me? Dream on. You have no idea how much my uncle has secretly arranged behind the scenes for this marriage." I knew that. But the truth was, no one cared, even after I took her place in the marriage. Her uncle once praised me for my grace and composure. Later, when her aunt and my cousin went to the palace to pay their respects, they saw me and showed no sign of surprise. Their attitude was natura. LLY. as if I were Shen Yumeng all along. I couldn't help but glance sideways at my elder sister. She was frowning and glaring at me, her face full of resentment. How exactly did she die in her previous life? It seems like one morning. Father calmly told me, "Your sister has passed away. The marriage arrangements with the third prince cannot be delayed. From today onward, you are Shen Yumeng." At the time, I was overcome with fear and panic, too consumed by dread to think deeply about it. Now, calling it from the beginning. Why do I suddenly feel that her death was far too neat? Far too convenient. It seems there is more to my elder sister's story. On the way back to the mansion, memories of my past life flashed through my mind like a kaleidoscope. After my stepmother left, I called out to my elder sister, who was about to storm off. She turned around and said with undisguised sarcasm, "What? Are you going to put on that act of being gentle, kind, and virtuous again?" I sighed silently. With a temperament like hers, if she truly entered the palace, I feared she wouldn't last even half a year. "Sister, I just want to ask you one thing." "Speak." She furrowed her brows, her face brimming with impatience. "Who do you truly have your heart set on, Kuanwen or the third prince?" A flicker of panic crossed my elder sister's eyes, only to be instantly overshadowed by arrogance. "What business is that of yours? Naturally it concerns me. You and I. Them and them. Sister. In this game of chess, someone must make a clear move." Hemph sneered. "I knew it. Your feelings for Kuanwen have never been merely those of a sister." I understood perfectly well. It seemed Shen Kuanwen was the one on her mind, but since she was unwilling to be honest, asking further would be futile. I considered seeking out Shen Kuanwen to get to the bottom of things, but the thought crossed my mind only to be quickly abandoned. I doubted I'd get the truth from him either. In my previous life, after he placed third in the imperial examinations, he unexpectedly won the princess's favor and later became her consort. Unfortunately, within 3 years of their marriage, he had already taken 2 mistresses. When the princess sought to divorce him, he actually came begging before me, claiming he'd harbored feelings for me since childhood but had been too young and insecure to speak of them. But as empress, how could I risk offending the princess for the sake of a faithless man? So I gave him a cup of poisoned wine, thereby doing the princess a favor. Many years later, whenever I saw a young man dressed in fine clothes and riding a spirited horse, I would always think of him and wonder if I had done the wrong thing. Looking back now, I realize my memory has grown muddled with age. He was never a good man to begin with. In the days that followed, my stepmother often summoned me to speak with her or share a meal, likely because the noble consort had shown me favor that day. My elder sister was usually there as well, though she always seemed restless, a shadow of gloom between her brows. The more I watched her, the more I suspected she might be pregnant. I had no concrete proof, but having spent decades in the palace in my previous life, I'd seen it all too often. That reaction, that way of carefully shielding her abdomen, it was all too familiar. One day, I ran into my elder sister in the garden. She was leaning against a rockery, covering her mouth as she retched. "Sister, are you feeling unwell?" I watched her quietly. She looked up and glared at me. Before she could speak, she turned away and began retching again. I had the maid step back and wait nearby. Once her breathing had steadied somewhat, I asked softly, "You're pregnant, aren't you?" My elder sister continued to glare at me, but her eyes were red. She had clearly been crying. All traces of her usual arrogance had vanished, leaving only panic and helplessness. "You just how much do you know?" Her voice trembled. I don't know much. I just saw you and cousin Kuanwen embracing by the lake. And I heard you two say. Before I could finish. She shuddered violently. Staggered backward. And only managed to steady herself by grabbing the stone table. Are you going to tell father? No. I took a step closer. But sister. You're not yet married. If word gets out that you're pregnant. What will become of the Shen family? And what will become of you? Will Chen Kuanwen truly take responsibility? He's gotten you pregnant before marriages that really love. My elder sister shook her head. Weeping. Don't even think about driving a wedge between us. Brother Wenhe loves me. He's been fond of me since childhood. He said he'd marry me after passing the imperial exams. I sighed. Don't you really know what an unwed pregnancy means for a woman? Sister. If he truly cared about you, he wouldn't have let you end up in this situation. Now that it's come to this, he should confess to father and marry you as soon as possible. My elder sister froze. Her lips moved. But no sound came out. Because he doesn't dare, or perhaps never wanted to in the first place. You're talking nonsense. She covered her ears. Brother Wen isn't that kind of person. He said he'd take me back to Jiangnan someday. Just the three of us. Living together. Wake up. Sister. He studied hard for decades. If he passes the imperial exams, do you really think he'd give up everything for you? My elder sister slumped onto the stone bench. Then what am I supposed to do? I probably can't hide this from the child. No. He wouldn't lie to me. Sister. Terminate this pregnancy and cut all ties with Chen Kuanwen. I urged softly. No. I can't kill my own child. This is the flesh and blood of Wen and me. Then you'll just have to wait for your reputation to be ruined. Wait for Chen Kuanwen to abandon you. And then face everyone's scorn all by yourself. She buried her face in the stone table. Her sobs stifled and desperate. I turned and left. Everyone must take responsibility for their own choices. I had said all I needed to say. Soon. I learned from my father that the fourth prince was leading troops to the border. But I clearly remembered that in my previous life. It was Xiao Bo'an who went. The emperor had arranged his marriage before he set out. Moreover, it was precisely through T's opportunity that he consolidated military power, laying the foundation for his future ascension to the throne. Finding this strange, I returned to the tea house by the shores of Boshan Lake. It was the only place I could find him at the moment. Sure enough, as soon as I approached the entrance, I saw Chang Mao standing on the steps. Second young lady. You're here. I nodded. Upstairs. Xiao Bo'an was still sitting by the window, gazing out. What do you want to know? He cut straight to the chase. I walked over and sat across from him. I want to know, was my sister's death in my past life connected to you? It wasn't. I only found out that day that the bride had been switched. Then why didn't you expose me? I asked again. All I needed was the Shen family's support. Besides, you're smarter than Shen Yumeng and have a better sense of propriety. That actually matched my own guess after all. My elder sister was indeed rather naive. Xiao Bo'an then asked me, Yun Yang, if I didn't vie for the through any in this life, would you still be willing to marry me? I was taken aback. I had originally intended to ask how he planned to fight for it, but I was afraid he might think I was meddling too much in the affairs of the previous dynasty. However, his words, I truly hadn't expected that. You didn't want to ascend the throne. That supreme position of the emperor was one he had seized in his previous life by trampling over the corpses of countless people. After his coronation, he rose early and retired late, governing so diligently that he coughed up blood, yet still refused to put down his imperial brush. A man who craved power as if it were his very life, and now he says he no longer wishes to fight for it. Yumeng. When you're climbing upward, your feet rest on the shoulders and even the bones of countless people. Once you reach the heights, you must constantly guard against falling. It's actually exhausting. That was the truth. I had seen him wake in the dead of night, drenched in cold sweat, claiming he dreamed of his brothers coming to claim his life. I'd also seen him demote veteran ministers to maintain the balance of the court, only to sit alone in the hall, sleepless through the night. That throne was never a source of pleasure. It was a burden, a place of utter isolation. Yumeng, you haven't answered my question. He turned back, his gaze fixed directly into my eyes. I took a deep breath. I'm willing, though I didn't know why he had changed so much. I truly was willing, in every respect. He was actually the best match I could hope for, though he was cold-tempered and taciturn. He likely wouldn't mistreat me. As for romance, something I hadn't expected in my past life. Why force it in this one? Besides, the fact that he's still willing to marry me in this life means there's still some affection between us. Within a few days, the imperial edict granting the marriage arrived. Father was overjoyed, and my stepmother was delighted as well. Yunshu, from now on, you're my daughter. YD. Aunt, you move into my courtyard. There are many royal protocols. You'll need to learn them properly. Yes, thank you, Mother. I glanced at my elder cousin standing beside me. She was still gazing longingly at Kuanwen. Everyone dispersed. I had barely taken a few steps when Kuanwen caught up to me. Cousin, are you really going to marry the third prince? Yes. Aren't you happy for me? Cousin, I am, but after all, you're just a daughter of a concubine. If you marry him, you'll likely only be a secondary wife. You'd be better off finding an ordinary family and becoming their primary wife. So that's how he saw me. How ridiculous. My cousin, who grew up with me, is actually the one who looks down on me the most. Enough, cousin. The emperor has decreed this marriage. Both thunder and dew are his grace. Our ranks and stations are determined by heaven's will. But what are your thoughts regarding my elder sister? He smiled calmly. My relationship with the eldest miss is pure and proper. There has been absolutely no transgression. Cousin, do not listen to the idle gossip of others and tarnish a young lady's reputation. I nodded. Fine. As long as it's pure and proper. No wonder the princess in my past life cursed him as a beast in human form. With a gut full of filth, my elder sister trusted and loved him so deeply. Yet now he's in such a hurry to distance himself, stingy even with a single word of concern or greeting. Half a month later, the imperial examination results were announced. Just as in my previous life, Kuanwen ranked third in the provincial exams, paraded through the streets on horseback, and basked in glory. Soon after, citing the need to focus on preparing for the palace examination, he moved out of the Shen residence and into the government guest house provided for newly appointed scholars. That night, my maid Xiao rushed in. Flustered. Second young lady. There's been an incident. The eldest young lady tried to hang herself, but the matrons saved her. What? I hurriedly got up, threw on a robe, and went over. The courtyard of my elder sister's quarters was already filled with people kneeling on the ground. Father stood in the center, his face ashen, while my stepmother stood to one side, her brows tightly furrowed. My elder sister was being held down by two matrons. Her hairpins and ornaments lay scattered about as she screamed hoarsely. Let me die. A maidservant stumbled out of the room, holding aloft a half-burned letter. Father took it, and after reading it, his face turned from pale to dark as he slammed the letter to the ground. You good for nothing. I bent down to pick it up. Only a few words remained legible. All that has happened in the past was a moment of foolishness. I hope the eldest young lady takes care of herself. The signature at the bottom was charred beyond recognition. Yet I knew it was Kuanwen's handwriting. Father raised his hand and slapped my elder sister across the face. She stopped crying, stared blankly at the paper. And then she smiled. She staggered to her feet. The baby, what about the baby? Said he'd marry me. Father froze. What baby? My elder sister seemed not to hear him, placing a hand on her lower abdomen. Almost 3 months now, said, it looks like me. With big eyes. Yumeng. Father snapped. Speak clearly. What baby? Whose baby? My stepmother sighed, as if she wanted to speak but held back. The eldest sister looked up at them. Yes, I am pregnant. He said that once the child is born, he'll teach it to read and write. He said he'd marry me. Dead silence fell over the courtyard. The servants wished they could bury their heads in the ground. The father trembled with rage, pointing at the eldest sister. After a long pause, he ground out through clenched teeth, guards, lock her in the ancestral hall. No one is to release her without my orders. Anyone who dares leak a single word will be beaten to death. Several matrons stepped forward to drag the eldest sister away. She offered no resistance, only smiled, laughing continuously. A laugh that sent chills down their spines, while tears streamed down her cheeks. Streaming down her cheeks, my elder sister was locked in the ancestral hall. And peace soon returned to the manor. In my previous life, I knew nothing of this incident. After all, I lived in the most remote courtyard at the time, with only Xiao Tao by my side. So I was cut off from the outside world. Fortunately, in this life, I've always had Xiao Tao keep an eye on my elder sister's courtyard. Late at night, I went to the ancestral hall. My elder sister-in-law, why prostrate on the floor, staring blankly at the moonlight streaming through the window. Sister, the floor is cold, I said softly, draping the fleece blanket I'd brought over her. It's you. Why did you come? To check on you. She snorted. To laugh at me. You're about to marry the third prince, while I'm likely to die. I had guessed as much. The emperor had just arranged the marriage. If word got out that my elder sister was pregnant before marriage, it would inevitably tarnish my reputation as well. Father would never allow such a thing to happen. Sister, do you regret it? There's nothing to regret. I loved him, that's all. I simply misjudged him and loved the wrong man. I sighed. Then what do you plan to do next? What about the child? The child will naturally stay with me. Shen Yunshu. You needn't pity me. What kind of man is Xiao Bo'an anyway? Do you really think he'll fall in love with you? Father is making you marry him solely for the sake of the Shen family's future. You and I, we both just pawns. Does love or the lack thereof really matter that much? Of course it matters. She suddenly grew agitated. A person lives but a single life if they can't even find someone who truly loves them. What's the difference between that and being an object? Father loves power. Mother loves prestige. Which of them has ever truly loved me? Only brother Wen loves me. He said he loves only me. Mother always thought of you. On her deathbed, she told me I must come to the capital to see you and protect you. I looked at her, a bitter ache in my heart. She gave a cold laugh. The moment she chose to keep you, I ceased to be her daughter. Sure enough, she still remembered. We were twin sisters when we were 4. Father came to Jiangnan, saying he wanted to take us back to the capital to be raised under our stepmother's name. Mother couldn't bear to part with us and pleaded with father, saying I was frail and couldn't withstand the cold of the north. So father agreed to let me stay. As my sister was leaving, she clung to mother's legs, Weeping with heart-wrenching grief, mother wept too, but could only stroke her head over and over, saying, Menger, be a good girl, once you're in the capital. You must be obedient, must listen to your stepmother. Finally, my sister pushed mother away. If you won't keep me here today, I'll never acknowledge you again. Mother had no choice. Father's mind was made up. As a concubine, what right did she have to defy him? Every year on your birthday, mother would cook a bowl of longevity noodles and sit facing the direction of the capital in silence for a long time. But why couldn't I be the one to stay? Just because I'm the older sister. Just because I'm sensible. Just because I'm healthy. I'm sorry. Apart from those words, it seemed anything else I said would be in vain. In my past life, I hadn't even been able to protect her. Sister, don't blame mother, blame me. I've always kept your room ready for you. My elder sister smiled. But as she smiled, tears began to fall again. Sister, if you wish to return to Jiangnan, I can help you. She didn't answer, only covered her face, her low sobs echoing through the silence of the ancestral hall. The next day, when I went to see Xiao Bo'an again, he looked at me and said, in our past life, you weren't nearly this eager to come see me. My face flushed, and I felt a bit embarrassed. In our past life, I was unable to bear children. So why should I take up a spot for the night? It was better to let the other sisters have more opportunities. Besides, he had set a rule. Only one person was allowed to spend the night with him each month. And sometimes even that one person was sent back. For the concubines in the palace often had to wait a year or two for their turn. The opportunity was truly precious, but I dared not voice these thoughts. Instead, I knelt directly and said, I have an urgent matter to request of your highness today. What business requires such a formal gesture? To kill someone, granted. Rise. After I stood, he did not press me for details, but simply waited quietly for me to speak. To kill Kuanwen. He chuckled softly. What's this? A matter that could be settled with a single cup of poison. Are you now too reluctant to do it yourself? Sure enough, he knew everything. It's not that I'm reluctant. It's just that I have neither money nor men at my disposal right now. Besides, using poison alone would be too easy a way out for him. Xiao Bo'an pondered for a moment. Very well. My stables have recently acquired several spirited horses, fierce and untamed. What do you think? I nodded. A faithless, ungrateful man deserves no pity in death. Thank you, Your Highness, for your kindness. No need for thanks. His tone was flat as he asked. The wedding is set for the 8th of next month. Do you have any other thoughts? I leave it entirely to your Highness's discretion. After a moment's silence, I couldn't help but ask. Your Highness, this time, will I need to take the safflower again? He set down his teacup and looked up at me. My heart skipped a beat. Had I asked too abruptly? I'd simply thought that since he had no intention of claiming the throne, the Shen family would pose no threat as imperial in-laws. Perhaps I could have children of my own. So you've known all along. I nodded. In that cup of wedding wine from my past life, though the dose was slight, my keen sense of smell allowed me to detect the scent of safflower from the very first sip. But I drank the very last drop. Having an heir would inevitably lead to striving for power on the child's behalf, deepening our entanglement with the Shen family, which, for someone who merely wished to live peacefully as empress, was not a good thing. Besides, it might have been his way of testing me. He was silent for a long time before saying, I'm sorry, Yun Yang. Back then I was forced by circumstances. The Shen family was powerful. And since you were a substitute bride, I had no choice but to be cautious. It's all right, Your Highness. I cut him off. In my previous life, I had no children. And during the previous I's reign, there were those who used this against me, claiming I was unworthy of the throne. I had even considered voluntarily stepping down as empress and settling for the role of an ordinary concubine. Yet he overruled all opposition, even demoting the censors who submitted such petitions, insisting that I remain firmly in the imperial harem, that I hold such sway in the harem, with no one daring to defy mice, that not the result of his support in the imperial court. As for whether that support was truly for me, or merely for the sake of the Shen family, it matters little to me. Ultimately, I am the one who benefits. I have always been a respected empress. Xiao Bo'an gazed at me quietly, his gaze so intense that it made me feel slightly uneasy. I rose to take my leave. Your Highness, it is getting late. I shall return to the palace first. He said no more. But as I turned to go, he murmured softly, Young, in this life, we will have children. My steps faltered slightly. I did not turn back, merely murmuring a soft Yet something within my heart quietly melted away. As always, Cha Engmyo escorted me back to the palace. Xiao Dao reported. Second young lady. The first young lady hasn't eaten much today. She only had half a piece of the peach cookies you sent and drank half a bowl of ginseng soup. I sighed softly. As long as she can eat, that's good. It means she wants to live. When I went quietly to the ancestral hall to check on her that night, she was curled up on the mat, fast asleep. The fleece blanket I'd brought was draped over her, and one hand was pressed against her lower abdomen. Judging by that posture, she likely wouldn't take her own life. After all, she couldn't bear to part with this child. It seemed then that in her previous life, she had indeed been killed by the Shen family. The next day, Bai Mam from the noble consort's palace actually came to the mansion in person. Bai Mam was Xiao Bo'an's wet nurse. In her previous life, she had always served by the noble consort's side. Her sudden arrival now could not help but send a chill down one's spine. My stepmother wore a beaming smile and said politely, Yunshu, Lady Bai has been specially sent by Her Majesty the noble consort to teach you proper etiquette. You must learn carefully. Yes, I understand. After studying with Lady Bai for half a day, her bearing and manners were both polished and proper, since these were things she had taught her step by step in her previous life. Naturally, there was nothing to fault. Aunt Bai suddenly turned to her mother and said, The second young lady is learning very well. However, I was thinking that since the year is drawing to a close, she ought to go to the ancestral hall to learn the rituals for honoring our ancestors. Her mother's expression stiffened slightly. Are we going today? Precisely. Matron Bai's gaze was calm yet laden with meaning. Madam, regarding the eldest young lady's matter, as per Her Highness's wishes, it would be best to send her to a convent outside the city for quiet recuperation as soon as possible. This will prevent rumors from spreading and tarnishing the reputation of all the Shen family's young ladies. The primary wife nodded hastily. Your Highness has thought of everything. I shall arrange for her to be sent out of the city at once. My heart tightened, fearing the primary wife might harbor ulterior motives. Just as I was about to speak, Matron Bai shot me a glance. I knew she was telling me to keep quiet. I pressed my lips together. She nodded again, signaling for me to rest easy. But how could I possibly rest easy? I had originally planned to make proper arrangements for the carriage, horses, and attendants, and then quietly send her to Jiangnan after she gave birth. But now, with such haste. Sigh. My mind wandered during the etiquette lesson, after my stepmother left. Aunt Bai whispered. Second young lady. Your emotions are written all over your face. It is easy for scheming people to see through your intentions, even with your closest blood relatives. You must never bare your heart completely. You are quite right. Matron, but how can I not worry? Before mother passed away, she held my hand and repeated only one phrase over and over. Protect your elder sister. I failed to do so in my previous life. In this one, alas. When it comes to her, my feelings are ultimately a mix of frustration and helplessness, and within that helplessness, I cannot bring myself to sever the ties of blood. Please put your mind at ease. Second young lady. Matron Bai's voice grew even softer. His Highness has already made arrangements. Once we leave the city, we will have the first young lady pass away from illness, then secretly send her south. Our people in Jiangnan have already been properly prepared. Is that true? Naturally. Matron Bai furrowed her brows. But what did you just promise this old servant? I immediately lowered my eyes, hiding the turmoil within, straightened my posture, and resumed my respectful stance. Only my tightly clenched fists quietly relaxed. A few days later, father returned to the manor and sat in the hall, letting out a long sigh. Kuanwen is dead. Dead. My stepmother exclaimed in surprise. Didn't he just win third place in the imperial examinations? How could he have died? A mere bookish scholar. Yet he insisted on trying to tame a wild horse like others. In the end, the horse bolted, threw him from its back, and trampled him repeatedly with its hooves. I hear his leg bones were shattered and his internal organs ruptured. He died within 2 hours of being carried back. I stood on the veranda outside the hall, listening to their conversation. My heart remained unmoved. I merely felt a weight lift from my shoulders. He deserved to die. Father suddenly asked again. How is Yunmeng faring at the nunnery? That child must be disposed of as soon as possible. Li Bingyi's wife passed away half a year ago, and he has now gone to the frontier with the fourth prince. If he returns safely, he will surely have military merits. When the time comes, I shall petition for a favor and betroth Yunmeng to him. As a second wife, at least she'll have a place to belong. My stepmother hurriedly replied. My lord, rest assured. I've already sent medicine over. They say it's a tonic to restore her health. My father's voice grew heavy. If she stubbornly refuses, then prepare a bowl of arsenic. Tell the outside world she slipped and fell into a well, or died suddenly of a sudden illness. We must preserve the Shen family's reputation at all costs. This must not affect Yunshu's marriage. I understand. My fists clenched tightly. Li Bing, that border guard brute, nearly 40 years old, with a violent temper, who had driven 3 wives to their deaths. So it was they who killed my sister. Fortunately, in my previous life, I didn't let them have their way either. I remained childless. They once tried to send a daughter from the Shen clan to the palace, but I flatly refused. Later, my younger brother Shen Ping died on the battlefield, and my stepmother fell ill and never recovered, leaving her with no strength left. Father took a concubine in hopes of an heir, but he didn't know that at the family banquet before I entered the palace, I had already laced the food with a potion to prevent conception. Back then, I thought to myself, none of the 4 people at that table would ever bear children. The glory of the Shen family ends with me. But in this life, I want to have a son. So these past few days, I've been secretly adding a little something to the tea in my stepmother's room, having spent decades in the palace. What secret potions haven't I seen? There are plenty of colorless, odorless formulas that kill without a trace. Unfortunately, I cannot act against them just yet. I must be patient. At the very least, I must wait until after I've married in grand style. The day of the grand wedding arrived in the blink of an eye. 10 miles of red bridal attire, a phoenix crown and scarlet sash. A magnificent procession just like in my previous life. Yet my state of mind was entirely different. Back then, I bore another's name, hiding my own fear, treading on thin ice with every step, always afraid of being exposed. Now, the whole world knows that the third prince, Xiao Bo'an, has married as Shen Yunshu. Yet, during the wedding ceremony, I couldn't help but feel a strange sensation, more like the calm and certainty of an old married couple holding hands again after weathering storms. Though tinged with a touch of awkwardness, strange as it may seem, I've grown accustomed to him being the diligent emperor and me the empress managing the harem, meeting only occasionally to discuss trivial matters of court or the studies of the princes and princesses, everything understood without words, with tacit understanding and compo. Sure. Yet today, from the wedding procession to the ceremony, he was thoughtful and attentive at every turn, even personally helping me down from the palanquin and stepping over the threshold for me. Such meticulous care, on the contrary, left me at a loss. Could it really be that he feels guilty about the matter with Honghua and is trying to make amends? When Xiao Bo'an gently lifted my red veil, I distinctly saw a fleeting trace of unease in his eyes, though it was quickly overshadowed by his usual composure. So he too found this situation somewhat strange and awkward. We exchanged a smile, and the awkwardness in our eyes gradually faded. After drinking the ceremonial wine, the matchmaker and maids withdrew. The room was bathed in the glow of red candles, so quiet that all we could hear was each other's breathing. He was silent, and I could find no words to speak. Discuss court affairs, inappropriate, recall our past lives, even more eerie. Shall we make ourselves comfortable? He was the one to speak first. Yes, the candles were extinguished, and the curtains drawn. In the darkness, his scent lingered at my nostrils, just like so many nights in our past life, quiet and peaceful. Fortunately, he was as gentle as ever, and I didn't feel too uncomfortable. Just as I was about to fall asleep, he asked me softly, "When do you wish to depart?" Leave. I opened my eyes in confusion. Where to? Jiangnan. My fourth younger brother will return victorious before the year is out. I've already sought the emperor's permission. After the new year, I'll take up my fiefdoms in Jiangnan. Really? I sat up, almost convinced I'd misheard him. Really? In our past life, you were trapped with me within the palace walls for a lifetime. Don't you want to go out and see the world in this one? I do. I leaned back against his shoulder. Spring comes early in Jiangnan. By March, the peach blossoms are in full bloom, and the embankments are covered in flowers in summer. We'll take boats to pick lotus flowers. In autumn, the crabs are plump and the osmanthus fragrant. I chattered on about the beautiful scenery of Jiangnan, but my mind was already making plans. If we were to leave the capital after the new year, I would need to make arrangements for the Shen family well in advance. As if sensing my hesitation, his arm gently wrapped around me. Don't worry about it. Just take good care of yourself. I'll handle the rest. All right. I closed my eyes again. Of course I trusted him. On the day we left the capital the following year, the weather was clear and fine. As the carriage led out through the city gates, I lifted the curtain and looked back. The towering city walls gradually faded into the distance in the morning light. Are you sad to leave? Xiao Bo'an asked me. It just feels like I've been in a very long dream. The decades of my past life, the splendor and solitude within the palace walls. The scheming and compromises all faded away as the capital receded into the distance. Xiao Bo'an took my hand and said, "Now the dream is over. Wherever you want to go from now on, I'll go with you." I looked up at him. His eyes no longer held the unfathomable depth of my past life. Instead, they were filled with a gentle light. "Your Highness has changed," I said softly. "How have I changed?" "You've become more like a real, living person. Back then, you were always so tense. Like a fully drawn bow." He smiled. "Back then, I carried the empire on my shoulders and the common people in my heart. I dared not relax for a moment. In this life, I only wish to carry you on my shoulders and hold you in my heart." My face flushed, and I buried myself in his embrace. By the time we reached our fiefdom, it was already the third month of spring. One afternoon, the gatekeeper reported, "Prince SS. There is a lady at the gate seeking an audience. She says she is an old acquaintance of yours." An old acquaintance. When I stepped into the flower hall and saw that figure dressed in plain robes and wearing a veiled cap, my heart suddenly began to race. It was my elder sister. She had put on a bit of weight since the last time I saw her, and she was holding a swaddled infant in her arms. Sister. My sister looked at me and smiled. I was passing through this area and heard that the third prince had been granted his fiefdom, so I came especially to pay my respects to the princess consort. I dismissed the attendants and stepped forward to take her hand. "Why didn't you let me know beforehand? Did you have a safe journey? And the child?" "Everyone is well." She handed me the bundle. "It's a daughter. We've named her Xiaoman." I took her gently. The little one was fast asleep, her cheeks rosy and soft, her features faintly echoing my sister's. "She looks just like you," I whispered. My sister smiled. "But as S." He smiled. Tears began to fall again. "Yunshu, thank you. If it weren't for you, my child and I, it's all in the past." I held the child close, my heart filled with tenderness. "What are your plans for the future? Would you be willing to stay?" My sister shook her head. "I want to return to the old family home. The house mother left behind is still there, and I want to raise my child there." "That's fine. If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to come to me." My sister nodded and wiped away her tears. "Don't worry. I can take care of myself and the child. But is he treating you well?" "Yes," I answered without hesitation. My sister smiled with relief. "That's good. If mother were still here, she'd be so happy to know you're doing well now." By June, news reached the capital. The emperor had passed away, and the fourth prince had ascended the throne. Soon after, the noble grand consort set out for Jiangnan, ostensibly to rest and recuperate. Meanwhile, tragic news reached the Shen family. Father, overcome with grief over the late emperor, had accidentally knocked over a lamp while handling official business in his study one night. Sparking a fire, the flames raged fiercely. Father, my stepmother, and my younger brother Shenping were all unable to escape, and the entire family perished. I sighed. Such an ending was, in a way, clean. At least it didn't implicate me. Before I knew it, the year-end festivities were upon us. The cries and laughter of the dragon and Phoenix twins brought a new vitality to the prince's mansion. Xiao Bo'an took turns holding the two children. His movements were still somewhat clumsy, yet he was utterly careful. I leaned back on the heated couch, quietly watching them. The fire crackled, casting flickering shadows. The The scene was so tender it seemed almost unreal. In my past life, I had guarded the Phoenix Hall alone, late at night. I would always think, how wonderful it would be if I had a child of my own. Now, I actually had one. Two in fact. What should we name them? Xiao Bo'an asked me. Let's call our daughter Nianqing. And our son Nianin. This is my new beginning, having weathered countless storms. I have finally returned to being myself. From now on, I do not yearn for boundless wealth or seek empty fame for all eternity. I only wish that my children, my husband, and our family may live in peace and joy. Year after year, the story has come to an end. Thank you all for your companionship. See you in the next chapter.